They say you find out who someone really is in a crisis. For Claire Westfield, that moment came when she woke up from life support to find a text message that would shatter everything. While she'd been dying, while doctors fought to save her and her unborn baby, her husband had been planning something unthinkable, a text message, a model with millions of followers, and bank accounts emptied while Claire was unconscious. But that was just the beginning. Because what Marcus didn't know was that his biggest business rival had been watching, waiting. And when Marcus made his move, Jonathan Reed made his. This is the story of a woman who was left for dead and came back stronger than anyone imagined. A story of betrayal so calculated it was written in journal entries, of revenge so perfect it didn't need to be planned, and of a second chance that arrived in a $15,000 suit. By the end, you'll understand why sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes the best thing that ever happened. Stay with me, because this story has twists you won't see coming, and an ending that proves the best revenge isn't destruction, it's living well. The flatline alarm screamed through the intensive care unit, beeping, rushing footsteps, voices shouting medical terminology. Claire Westfield couldn't understand. Her eyes fluttered open to blinding white lights. Everything hurt. Her chest, her head, her entire body felt like it had been torn apart and hastily stitched back together. She tried to move her hand. It was heavy, so heavy, but she managed to slide it across the thin hospital blanket to her swollen belly. 8 months pregnant. The baby kicked, weak, barely there, but present. Mrs. Westfield, can you hear me? A woman's face appeared above her. Dark hair pulled back, concerned brown eyes, a white coat. I'm Dr. Patricia Morrison. You're in the intensive care unit at San Francisco General. You had a placental abruption. We almost lost you both. Claire's throat burned, raw, like someone had scraped it with sandpaper. She tried to speak. Nothing came out except a horrible rasping sound. Don't try to talk yet, Dr. Morrison said gently. You had a breathing tube. Your throat will be sore for a few days. Claire's hand kept moving across her belly, searching. Her daughter was still there, still alive, still fighting. But where was Marcus? Where was her husband? Her eyes darted around the room. Machines, monitors, IV poles, medical equipment she couldn't name. But no Marcus, no flowers, no cards, no sign that anyone had been here at all. You've been unconscious for 18 hours, Dr. Morrison continued. She was checking monitors, adjusting something on the IV line. The paramedics brought you in yesterday afternoon. You collapsed at the art gallery where you work. One of your colleagues called 911. Yesterday afternoon, Claire tried to remember. She'd been hanging a new exhibit, contemporary sculpture. She'd felt dizzy, reached for the wall, then nothing. A young nurse appeared at her bedside. Kind eyes, name tag reading Lydia. She held out Claire's phone. This was in your purse. It kept buzzing. I thought you might want it. Claire took the phone with shaking hands. The screen lit up. 3 missed calls from Grace. 17 missed calls from a number she didn't recognize. And 1 text message from Marcus, sent 4 hours ago, while she was dying. Her finger hovered over the message. She knew. Somehow she already knew. The way you know the floor is about to drop out from under you. The way you know your life is about to shatter into pieces you'll never put back together quite right. She opened the message. Claire, I can't do this anymore. I'm leaving. Sienna and I are together now. My lawyer will contact you about the divorce. I've moved my things out. Don't try to reach me. The words blurred, came back into focus, blurred again. The monitors started screaming. Not the flat line. Her heart rate, spiking, racing, 200 beats per minute, 210. Mrs. Westfield, Dr. Morrison grabbed her shoulders. You need to breathe, deep breaths, in through your nose, out through your mouth. Your heart rate is dangerous. You need to stay calm for the baby. But Claire couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process what she was reading. He left her. Marcus left her. While she was dying, while their daughter was dying inside her, while she was unconscious and helpless and fighting for both their lives. For someone named Sienna. Who is Sienna? The words came out as a croak. Her throat protested every syllable. The nurse, Lydia, exchanged a look with Dr. Morrison. The kind of look medical professionals gave each other when they know something terrible and don't want to be the ones to say it. I don't know, honey, Lydia said softly, but maybe you should wait to deal with this until you are stronger. Tell me, Dr. Morrison sighed. One of the other doctors recognized your name from the news websites. There are photos. Your husband, with a woman, on a beach somewhere tropical. The photos were posted about 6 hours ago. 6 hours ago. 2 hours after he sent the text message ending their marriage. 2 hours after he abandoned his dying wife and unborn child. He was on a beach with a woman named Sienna, probably drinking something with an umbrella in it, probably laughing, probably celebrating his freedom. I need to see. Claire's voice was stronger now. Rage did that, gave you strength when you thought you had none left. Lydia pulled out her own phone, opened Instagram, typed something, turned the screen toward Claire. Sienna Vale. Verified account. 2.3 million followers. The profile picture showed a woman who looked like she'd been assembled in a laboratory by scientists trying to create the perfect human specimen. Long blonde hair, perfect tan, and possibly white teeth. The kind of beauty that made other women feel like they'd somehow failed at being female. The most recent post was from 5 hours ago. A photo of Marcus and Sienna on a white sand beach, ocean behind them, his arm around her tiny waist, her head on his shoulder, both of them smiling like they'd just won the lottery. The caption read, "Finally free to love you openly, no more hiding, no more lies. Just us and our future. Hashtag new beginnings. Hashtag true love. Hashtag blessed." Claire's vision tunneled. The edges of the room went dark. The center stayed bright and sharp. That photo, that caption, those hashtags. No more hiding. He'd been hiding. For how long? How long had Marcus been fucking a model while Claire had been growing his child? While she'd been suffering through morning sickness and swollen ankles and the constant fear that something would go wrong with this pregnancy? I'm going to be sick. She was, right there in the hospital bed, all over the thin blanket, all over herself. Lydia rushed forward with towels and that sad, knowing expression Claire would come to recognize over the next few weeks. The look that said she'd seen this before. Men who left, women who broke. The oldest story in the world. Dr. Morrison pressed the call button. More nurses appeared. They cleaned her up efficiently, changed her gown, changed the bedding, moved around her like she was a piece of furniture that needed rearranging. Through it all, Claire stared at the ceiling, counting tiles. 17 of them in her field of vision. She counted them again. Still 17. She counted a third time. Same answer. It was a trick her therapist had taught her years ago when she had panic attacks. Count something. Anything. Give your brain a simple task so it doesn't spiral into the dark places. But the dark places were here now. In this room, in that text message, in that Instagram post of her husband with a woman young enough to be his daughter. The baby's heartbeat is stable, Dr. Morrison said after checking the fetal monitor. But you're still at extremely high risk, complete bed rest, constant monitoring. One wrong move and we could lose her. Can I see her on the ultrasound? Dr. Morrison's expression softened. Better, we can move you to a private room with a continuous fetal monitor. You'll hear her heartbeat all the time. Some women find it comforting. They wheeled Claire to a different room 20 minutes later. It was nicer than the ICU, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, a view of everything she'd lost. The skyline where she'd built a life with a man who'd been planning to destroy her. The nurse attached the fetal monitor. A few seconds later, the sound filled the room. Whoosh, 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 her daughter's heartbeat. Strong, steady, fighting. Claire pressed both hands to her belly. "We're going to survive this," she whispered. "We have to." The baby kicked. Once. Twice. Like she was answering, like she was saying as she understood. Claire's phone buzzed. A text from Grace. "Oh my God, Claire, I just heard. I'm coming to the hospital right now. Don't look at anything online. Don't read anything. Just wait for me." Too late for that. Claire looked at the phone in her hand. She did something she'd seen in movies but never understood until now. She locked the screen, unlocked it, locked it, unlocked it, locked it. Maybe if she did it enough times, the message would change. The photo would disappear. Her husband would come back. Her life would go back to normal. But it didn't. And he wouldn't. And she never would. She locked the phone one more time and set it on the bedside table. The whoosh, whoosh, whoosh of her daughter's heartbeat filled the silence. Outside the window, the sun was setting over San Francisco. The sky turned orange and pink and purple. Beautiful. Indifferent. The world kept turning even when yours stopped. Grace burst through the door 45 minutes later. Her face was blotchy from crying. Mascara streaked down her cheeks. She'd clearly driven straight from wherever she was without bothering to fix her makeup or hair. "Oh my God!" Grace stopped in the doorway, took in Claire in the hospital bed, the monitors, the IV, the fetal heartbeat echoing through the room. "Oh my, Claire!" "You knew." Claire's voice was flat, empty. All the emotion had drained out somewhere between the text message and now. Grace's face crumbled. "I found out yesterday morning." Vincent let it slip at the Barnity opening. "I was trying to figure out how to tell you. Then you collapsed and I thought, I can't tell her this while she's in the hospital. I thought I had time." "How long?" "Claire, I don't think. How long has my husband been fucking a model, while I've been growing his child?" The words tasted like poison, like truth, like the end of everything. Grace walked to the bed, sat on the edge carefully, avoiding the wires and tubes. She took Claire's hand. 6 months, maybe longer. "I'm so sorry. I wanted to tell you, but I didn't have proof until Vincent got drunk and started talking about how Marcus was finally happy again." 6 months. Claire was 3 months pregnant when it started, just beginning to show, just starting to glow with that pregnancy radiance everyone talks about, just starting to feel like maybe this was real. Maybe she was going to be a mother. Maybe they were going to be a family. Apparently, Marcus preferred a different kind of glow, the Instagram filter kind, the 2.3 million followers kind. Where is he now? Claire already knew, but she needed to hear it, needed someone else to confirm that, yes, this was really happening. This wasn't a nightmare she'd wake up from. Grace pulled out her phone, opened Instagram, Sienna Vale's profile. She scrolled through the photos, beach photos, pool photos, sunset photos, all posted within the last 6 hours, all showing Marcus and Sienna, holding hands, kissing, looking at each other like they were the only two people in the world. One caption read, "The best part about finally being together, no more sneaking around, no more lies, just pure honest love." Another read, "He chose me, he chose us, he chose happiness. So proud of him for being brave enough to follow his heart." Claire's nails dug into her palms. The monitors beeped faster, her blood pressure rising, heart rate climbing. "Breathe," Grace said. "I know it's terrible. I know you want to scream or cry or throw something, but you need to stay calm, whatever, for her." She nodded at Claire's belly. "He chose happiness," Claire repeated. "Like I was his misery, like I was the thing preventing him from living his best life." "He's a narcissistic asshole," Grace said bluntly. "This isn't about you. This is about him being broken inside. This is about him needing constant validation from younger women because he can't handle aging. This is about him being too cowardly to be an actual partner and father." "But why now? Why did he wait until I was dying?" Grace was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was hard, cold. "Because he's not just a narcissist. He's calculated. He knew you couldn't fight back from a hospital bed. He knew you'd be too weak to stop him from taking whatever he wanted. He used your medical crisis as cover." The words settled over Claire like a blanket of ice. Cold, heavy, suffocating. Marcus didn't leave her in a moment of panic. He didn't have a breakdown. He didn't make a mistake. He planned this, orchestrated it, waited for the perfect moment. And when that moment came, when she was unconscious and dying, he struck. "I'm not crazy," Claire said quietly. "This was planned. All of it." "You're not crazy," Grace confirmed. "You're the victim of someone who should be studied by psychologists as an example of how not to be a human being." They sat in silence for a while, the fetal monitor whooshing, the machines beeping, the sun finishing its descent below the horizon. Darkness settling over the city. Finally, Grace spoke again. There's something else you should know about the money. What about the money? Wait, your joint bank accounts. I logged into your account from your phone. I'm sorry. I know that's invasive, but I needed to check. Grace's hands were shaking. He emptied them yesterday morning while you were unconscious. He withdrew everything and transferred it to an account in just his name. The room tilted. Claire grabbed the bed rail to steady herself, even though she was already lying down. How much? $187,000. The number hit like a physical blow. That was their savings, their emergency fund, the money they'd been putting aside for the baby, for Claire's maternity leave, for the life they were supposed to build together. Gone. Can he do that? Legally? Grace's expression answered before her words did. I don't know, but apparently he did it anyway. There are laws about this kind of thing, but they take time to enforce. Time he's counting on. Claire closed her eyes. Behind her eyelids, she saw Marcus's face. The way he'd kissed her goodbye before she left for the gallery yesterday morning. The way he'd put his hand on her belly and said, take care of our girl. He'd already planned to leave, already withdrawn the money, already packed his bags. And he'd kissed her, touched her stomach, lied to her face one more time. I need a lawyer, Claire said. I know someone, Grace replied immediately. She's expensive, like really expensive. But she's the best divorce attorney in the city. She doesn't lose. I can't afford the best at anything. He took our money. Let me worry about that. I'll figure something out. Grace squeezed her hand. Right now, you need to focus on keeping yourself and the baby alive. Everything else, we'll handle. But as Grace left that night and the hospital room fell silent, except for the whoosh, whoosh, whoosh of the fetal monitor, Claire knew that nothing would ever be handled again. Her life as she knew it was over. The man she'd loved for 7 years had systematically destroyed everything they'd built, had waited until she was most vulnerable to strike, had abandoned their daughter before she was even born. And she was lying in a hospital bed, unable to walk, unable to work, unable to do anything except listen to her daughter's heartbeat and wonder how the hell she was going to survive this. The phone on the bedside table lit up. Another text from Marcus. My lawyer will contact you next week. Please don't make this difficult. We can end this civilly if you cooperate. Civilly. He'd emptied their bank accounts, abandoned her while she was dying, and fled to St. Bart's with a woman half his age. And he wanted civility. Claire picked up the phone, locked it, unlocked it, locked it, unlocked it, locked it. The message didn't change. Outside her window, San Francisco glittered in the darkness. Millions of lights, millions of lives, people having dinner, watching television, making love, fighting, laughing, crying, living their ordinary lives while hers fell apart. The baby kicked. Claire pressed her hand to the spot. I know, she whispered. It's just us now. But we're going to be okay. Somehow. The words felt like lies, but they were the only ones she had. But that was only the first shock. The second one arrived the next morning in a $15,000 suit. Claire was staring out the window when she heard the knock. Soft, polite, not the way doctors or nurses knocked. They just walked in, usually already talking about whatever test or medication or examination they were about to perform. Come in, she called. The door opened and a man appeared. Tall, early 40s maybe, dark hair going silver at the temples, sharp gray eyes that looked like they missed nothing, a navy suit that probably cost more than Claire's car. She recognized him immediately. Everyone in San Francisco knew Jonathan Reed, tech billionaire. Founded a software company in his garage 20 years ago and turned it into a $5 billion enterprise. Appeared on magazine covers, gave TED Talks, owned half the real estate in Pacific Heights. And he was Marcus's biggest business rival. For the past 5 years, Marcus had talked about Jonathan Reed the way people talk about their nemesis in comic books. Always one step ahead, always outmaneuvering him, always winning the clients Marcus wanted. I'm sorry to intrude. Jonathan's voice was surprisingly gentle. Not what she expected from a man who regularly crushed competitors. I heard about your situation. I wanted to check on you. Claire pulled the hospital blanket higher. She hadn't showered in 2 days, hadn't brushed her hair, probably looked like death warmed over. And here was Jonathan Reed, looking like he'd just stepped out of a board meeting. How did you even get in here? This is the ICU floor. I made a donation to the hospital's maternal health wing. He stayed in the doorway, respectful, not pushing into her space uninvited. Large enough that they gave me visiting privileges. I hope that's not too forward. It was completely forward. It was also the most consideration anyone had shown her in 48 hours. Why are you here? Jonathan stepped inside, closed the door behind him. His expression was carefully neutral, but something flickered in his eyes. Anger. Disgust. I was at the Regency Club last night, the bar on Nob Hill. Do you know it? Claire shook her head. It's where a certain type of successful man goes to celebrate victories and drown sorrows. Last night, Marcus Westfield was there, with his new companion, bragging about his freedom. Jonathan's jaw tightened, about how he'd finally cut loose the anchor dragging him down. He meant you and your daughter. The words landed like slaps, each one stinging, each one confirming what she already knew but hadn't wanted to believe. Marcus had been talking about her, calling her an anchor, celebrating her abandonment, while she lay in a hospital bed fighting for their daughter's life. I see, Claire said quietly. He was drunk, very drunk, loud. Everyone in the club heard him, including several business associates of mine who know that I've always had, he paused, searching for the right words, respect for you from the few times we've met at charity galas. They had met, Claire remembered now, 3 times over the years at various fundraising events, brief conversations about art and technology, about how the two fields could intersect, about the beauty of innovation. Marcus had always pulled her away quickly from those conversations, possessive, threatened by another successful man showing interest in his wife's thoughts. I don't need pity, Claire said. Her voice came out harder than she intended. Good. I'm not offering it. Jonathan pulled a chair to her bedside, sat down without asking permission. I'm offering information, and possibly help, if you want it. What kind of information? The kind Marcus doesn't want you to know about. The joint accounts he emptied yesterday morning before he left. The investment properties he transferred to his brother's name last week. The retirement fund he cashed out while you were unconscious. All the ways he's been systematically hiding assets so you can't claim them in the divorce. Claire's hand flew to her mouth. That's our money. I worked. I contributed. I have rights to... Not anymore. He moved very fast, very efficiently. While you were on life support, he was with his lawyer liquidating everything that wasn't nailed down. Jonathan leaned forward. I had my people look into it this morning. He's been planning this for months, maybe longer. This wasn't a sudden decision. This was a coordinated financial attack. The betrayal deepened, became 3-dimensional, developed layers upon layers. Marcus didn't wake up one day and decide to leave. He didn't have a moment of weakness. He didn't fall into Sienna's arms during a vulnerable moment. He planned this, prepared for it, moved pieces into position. And when Claire was at her most vulnerable, when she was literally dying, he executed his plan. Why are you telling me this? Claire asked. Jonathan stood, walked to the window, looked out at the city the same way Claire had been looking at it for 2 days. Because Marcus Westfield is a coward and a thief, and because I've watched you for 5 years at those charity galas, stuck by his side while he talked over you, dismissed your thoughts, treated you like an accessory he'd purchased to make himself look more sophisticated. His reflection in the window was sharp, angry. You deserve better then. You deserve better now. You don't know me. I know you were building something beautiful at the Billionaire before you got pregnant. I know you single-handedly negotiated the Anders collection acquisition. I know Marcus took credit for your connections to the art world while you stood there smiling and pretending you didn't mind. Jonathan turned back to face her. I know more than you think. Claire's heart did something strange. A flutter that had nothing to do with fear or anxiety. Something else. Something she couldn't quite name. What kind of help are you offering? The best divorce attorney in the state, already on retainer for you. She can have injunctions filed by tomorrow morning freezing whatever assets Marcus hasn't managed to hide yet. He pulled a business card from his pocket. walked to her bedside, placed it on the table. Her name is Rebecca Crawford. She doesn't lose. Ever. Claire picked up the card. Heavy stock, embossed lettering, an address in the financial district where only the most expensive lawyers had offices. I can't afford this. You're not paying, I am. Why? The question hung in the air between them. Jonathan was quiet for a long moment, the kind of silence that meant he was deciding how much truth to tell. Finally, he spoke. Because 3 years ago, Marcus Westfield stole proprietary code from my company, gutted a project we'd worked on for 2 years, cost us millions in development time. I couldn't prove it in court. His team covered their tracks too well. But I knew. He knew I knew. Jonathan's voice was steel. He destroyed something I built. Now he's destroyed you. The difference is, you can still be saved. The room tilted slightly. This wasn't about charity. This wasn't about kindness. This was about revenge. And Claire should care about that, should be worried about being a pawn in someone else's game, should question his motivations and protect herself from being used. But right now, with her daughter's heartbeat whooshing through the monitor and her husband partying in St. Bart's with a woman who probably didn't know the difference between Monet and Manet, she didn't care about motivation. She cared about survival. When can I meet this attorney? Claire asked. Jonathan smiled. It was the first genuine expression she'd seen on his face since he walked in. She's outside in the waiting room. I told her to give me 10 minutes to explain the situation. She's probably timing it on her watch right now. You were that confident I'd say yes? No, I was that hopeful. He walked to the door, opened it, nodded to someone in the hallway. Come meet the woman who's going to destroy Marcus Westfield's life. Rebecca Crawford walked in like a weapon disguised as a woman. Sharp black suit, designer heels that clicked against the floor with authority. Hair pulled back so tight it looked painful. Eyes that assessed Claire in about 3 seconds and apparently found her satisfactory. Mrs. Westfield, she said. No warmth, no sympathy, just business. I'm Rebecca Crawford. Jonathan has briefed me on the basics of your situation. I need to ask you some questions. Some of them will be invasive. Some will be painful. All of them are necessary. Can you handle that? Claire liked her immediately. No coddling, no false promises, no pretending this was going to be anything other than a war. Yes, Claire said. Good. Rebecca set a leather briefcase on the chair Jonathan had vacated, pulled out a tablet and a file folder. Let's start with the damage assessment. How many joint accounts do you have with Marcus? 4, 1 checking, 1 savings, 2 investment accounts. Balances as of last week? Claire's voice shook slightly. $312,000 combined. Rebecca typed without reaction, like that much money being stolen was just another Tuesday. Property? The house. We bought it 2 years ago, both our names on the deed. Mortgage? We owe $400,000. Cars? His Mercedes, my Range Rover, both leased. Retirement accounts? His 401k through the law firm, my IRA from the gallery, combined maybe $200,000. Rebecca's fingers flew across the screen. She pulled up documents, bank statements, property records, things Claire didn't know lawyers could access so quickly. Here's what we know so far, Rebecca said. Your joint checking and savings accounts were emptied 3 days ago. $187,000 withdrawn in a single transaction. Transferred to an account in your husband's name, only at a different bank. Claire felt the air leave her lungs. Grace had said it was bad, but hearing it confirmed by a lawyer made it real, made it permanent. That can't be legal, she whispered. It's not, but it takes time to prove. Time to file motions, time to get court orders, time he is counting on you not having. Rebecca swiped to another screen. The investment accounts were liquidated yesterday morning, another $125,000, also transferred to his personal account. What about my IRA? Untouched, it's in your name only. He can't access it without your signature or a court order. Rebecca looked up, sharp, assessing. Did you sign anything recently? Any documents Marcus said were about insurance or beneficiaries or updating your estate planning? Claire's blood ran cold, actual ice in her veins. Last month, she said slowly, He said we needed to update our life insurance policies after the pregnancy, make sure everything was in order in case something happened. I signed 3 forms, didn't read them. I was tired. The baby kept kicking. I just wanted to go to bed. Damn it, Rebecca said it like a professional diagnosis. Not angry, just disappointed that her job just got harder. He probably got you to sign a spousal waiver on your retirement account, or a document giving him power of attorney, or both. I'll need to see those papers. They're at the house, in his office, in the file cabinet. The house you no longer have access to because he changed the locks. How convenient. Rebecca set down the tablet, folded her hands. Looked Claire directly in the eye. Here's the reality, Mrs. Westfield. Your husband has been planning this for months, maybe even longer. He systematically positioned assets, got necessary signatures, prepared for his exit, and then he waited for the perfect moment. Your medical crisis gave him cover for cruelty. No one questions a man who leaves during a difficult time. They just assume the stress got to him. Claire's hands were shaking. She pressed them flat against the hospital blanket, tried to stop the trembling. Failed. What about the house? We'll fight for it, but here's the problem. You're not working right now. You can't pay the mortgage alone. He'll argue you should sell and split the proceeds, which sounds fair, except he's hidden assets. So when you split proceeds 50-50, you're actually getting maybe 30% of what you're entitled to. So I lose. Not if I have anything to say about it. Rebecca's smile was sharp, predatory. The good news is we can move fast. I'm filing an emergency motion this afternoon for temporary orders. We'll freeze what we can, get you temporary spousal support, start discovery on hidden assets. Make his life very uncomfortable very quickly. How long will this take? To get temporary orders? Maybe a week if the judge is sympathetic. For the full divorce? 6 months to a year. Longer if he fights dirty. Rebecca paused. And he will fight dirty. Men like your husband always do. They can't handle losing. Grace, who'd been standing quietly in the corner during this entire conversation, finally spoke. What about the baby? Child support? Rebecca's smile got wider, sharper. That's our nuclear option. California has very specific guidelines for child support, based on income percentage. Marcus makes, she checked her notes, $375,000 a year as a senior partner. His child support obligation will be roughly $6,000 per month. He'll never pay that, Claire said. He doesn't have a choice, unless he wants his wages garnished, his bank accounts levied, his professional reputation destroyed when every judge in the county knows he's a deadbeat dad. Rebecca started packing up her tablet. Here's what I need from you. Every document you can remember signing in the last year. Every financial statement. Every email or text message where Marcus discussed money. Every receipt for joint purchases. Everything. It's all at the house. Then we go to the house. Rebecca stood, brushed imaginary lint from her immaculate suit. Jonathan already arranged access. I'll meet with the property manager tomorrow morning. Marcus changed the locks, but he can't legally keep you from joint property. Yet. After Rebecca left, promising to file emergency motions immediately, Claire sat in the hospital bed feeling like she'd just been through a tornado. Her marriage was ending. Her life was being dissected by strangers. Her future was a spreadsheet on a lawyer's tablet. I need to use the bathroom, she told Grace. Grace called Nurse Lydia, who helped Claire out of bed. Walking was hard. Her legs felt like jelly. The IV pole rolled beside her, the fetal monitor temporarily disconnected. She made it to the bathroom, sat on the edge of the tub instead of using the toilet. Just sat there, fully clothed in her hospital gown. The tile was cold beneath on her. The fluorescent light hummed. Somewhere down the hall, another monitor beeped. She pressed both hands to her belly. I'm sorry, she whispered to her daughter. I'm so sorry I chose wrong. I'm sorry you'll be born into this mess. I'm sorry your father is a coward who planned to abandon you before you even took your first breath. The baby kicked. Once. Twice. 3 times. Strong kicks. Angry kicks, maybe. Or maybe kicks that said, we're still here. We're still fighting. We're not giving up. Claire finally stood, splashed cold water on her face. looked at herself in the mirror. She looked terrible, pale, exhausted, broken, but alive. Still alive. She returned to bed. Lydia reconnected the fetal monitor. The whoosh, whoosh, whoosh filled the room again. That evening, Jonathan returned. He brought food from Bella Vista, the Italian place on Montgomery Street, the one Claire had mentioned once 3 years ago at a charity gala. The one where she'd told Jonathan about their penne arrabbiata with just enough red pepper to taste the heat without overwhelming the dish. He remembered. Marcus never remembered her food preferences, never remembered anything she said unless it directly benefited him. You didn't have to do this, Claire said, as Jonathan set up containers on the rolling tray table. I know I didn't have to. I wanted to. He pulled the chair close to her bed, sat down. How are you feeling? Like my entire life just exploded and I'm standing in the wreckage trying to figure out which pieces are worth keeping. That's actually a very accurate description of divorce. Jonathan opened the pasta container. The smell made Claire's stomach rumble. She hadn't eaten since before the collapse. Rebecca is good, the best. If anyone can protect you, it's her. Why are you doing this? The question came out as a whisper. Really doing this, not the revenge story about Marcus stealing your code. The real reason. Jonathan was quiet for a long moment. He stared at the food without seeing it. When he finally spoke, his voice was different, softer, more vulnerable. When I was 28 years old, I watched my mother die alone in a hospital room. He didn't look at Claire, kept his eyes on the pasta container. My father had left her 6 months earlier, for his secretary, the most cliché story imaginable. He didn't visit once during her chemo, not during the bad days, not during the final days, not even to say goodbye. Jonathan, She died thinking she'd failed, that she wasn't pretty enough, smart enough, interesting enough, that his leaving was somehow her fault. His voice was steady, but his hands weren't. They were clenched into fists on his knees. I was there when she took her last breath. She looked at me and said, I'm sorry I wasn't enough for him. I'm sorry I wasn't what he needed. Claire's throat closed. Tears burned behind her eyes. I swore that day that if I ever had the means, the power, the resources to stop that from happening to someone else, I would use them. He finally looked at her. His eyes were wet. I have the means now. Let me use them. This isn't charity, Claire said. Not a question, a statement. No, it's justice. He stood, moved to the window, stared out at the city lights. And maybe a little bit of redemption for not being able to save my mother, for letting her die believing she wasn't enough. They ate in comfortable silence after that. The pasta was perfect, the red pepper flakes just right. A small thing, but in this moment it felt enormous. As Jonathan was leaving, he paused at the door. Marcus made the biggest mistake of his life, he said quietly. Not just morally, strategically. He made an enemy of me, and I don't lose. After he left, Claire lay in the dark hospital room listening to her daughter's heartbeat. For the first time since waking up in the ICU, she felt something other than despair. She felt hope, dangerous, fragile, terrifying hope, but hope nonetheless. Rebecca Crawford walked in like a weapon in heels, and she was ready to draw blood. Claire had been in the hospital for 3 days now. 3 days of monitoring, 3 days of bed rest, 3 days of watching her world burn down around her while she lay helpless in a hospital bed. Rebecca arrived at 8 in the morning, carrying 3 file boxes. Good news and bad news, she said, setting the boxes on the empty chair. Good news, I got the emergency temporary orders. As of yesterday afternoon, Marcus cannot access any remaining joint accounts without court approval. He also owes you temporary spousal support of $5,000 per month, starting immediately. What's the bad news? Everything else. Rebecca opened the first box, pulled out file folders, bank statements, documents Claire had never seen before. I went to the house yesterday. The property manager let me in. Marcus wasn't there. Probably still in St. Bart's living his best life. What did you find? His entire financial history for the past 7 years. The man kept meticulous records, which is good for us, bad for him. Rebecca pulled out a leather-bound journal. Also this, his personal diary, Apparently your husband fancied himself some kind of philosopher. Claire's hands shook as she took the journal. Brown leather, expensive, the kind of thing Marcus would buy because it made him feel important. She opened to a random page dated 6 months ago. March 14th. Claire asked about my day again. Why does she care? It's exhausting pretending to be interested in her opinions about art galleries and dead painters. She doesn't understand business, doesn't understand ambition, doesn't understand that success requires sacrifice. Sometimes I wonder if I settled. The words punched the air from her lungs. She'd asked about his day because she cared, because she wanted to be a partner, because she thought that's what married people did. He'd found it exhausting. She flipped forward. June 2nd. Sienna gets it. She understands success, understands image, understands that life is about creating the perfect version of yourself for the world to see. Being with her feels like breathing. Being with Claire feels like drowning in mediocrity. June 2nd. Claire had been 4 months pregnant. They just finished painting the nursery. Marcus had kissed her belly and whispered to their daughter about all the adventures they'd have together. He'd written this 3 hours later. I can't read this. Claire shoved the journal at Rebecca. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold it. I can't look at 7 years of my life and see how much he hated me the entire time. You need to read it, all of it. Rebecca's voice was clinical, professional, no sympathy, just facts. Because it's evidence, evidence of premeditation, evidence of systematic planning, evidence that this wasn't a sudden decision, but a calculated abandonment, time for maximum devastation. Grace, who'd been sitting quietly in the corner reading on her phone, looked up. How much is in there? 7 years of entries, not daily but frequent, enough to establish a pattern. Rebecca pulled out more documents. He also kept detailed financial records. Every account, every transaction, every asset, the man was meticulous. Well, that helps us, right? Grace asked. It would, except he also kept detailed plans for hiding those assets, transfers to family members, shell corporations, accounts in his brother's name. He's been moving money for months. Rebecca spread documents across Claire's hospital bed. Look at this. 6 months ago, he transferred ownership of your rental property to his mother. 4 months ago, he moved stocks to an account held jointly with his brother. 3 months ago, he opened a new account at a different bank and started siphoning money there. Claire stared at the papers. Numbers, dates, her signature on documents she didn't remember signing. He forged my signature. On at least 12 documents that I found, maybe more. Rebecca pointed to one paper. See this? Transfer of deed for the rental property? That's not your signature. It's close, but the loop on the L is wrong, and you dot your I's with circles. This doesn't. Claire felt sick, actually physically ill. Can we prove that? We can try, but forgery cases are hard. We'd need a handwriting expert. Cost thousands of dollars. Take months. Rebecca organized the papers into neat piles. But we don't need to prove forgery to prove he's an asshole. We just need to show the pattern. Show he systematically hid assets while you were pregnant and dependent. Show he planned this abandonment while pretending everything was fine. Grace stood up and moved closer to the bed, looked at the documents. What's this one? Rebecca's expression went dark. Actually dark, like a storm cloud passing over her face. That's a life insurance policy. $2 million, taken out 3 months ago. The insured is Claire. The beneficiary is Marcus. The room went silent except for the beeping of machines and the whoosh, whoosh, whoosh of the fetal monitor. He took out life insurance on me? Claire's voice sounded strange, distant, like someone else was speaking. $2 million. Specifically naming your high-risk pregnancy as a pre-existing condition he acknowledged and accepted. Rebecca handed Claire the policy. Look at the date, March 3rd. You were 3 months pregnant, just diagnosed with the placental abnormality that made this pregnancy high risk. Claire looked at the policy, the numbers blurred, came back into focus, blurred again. Marcus had bet on her dying, had seen her high-risk pregnancy and thought, opportunity, had calculated how much money he'd make if she died during childbirth. Read his journal entry for that day, Rebecca said quietly. Claire didn't want to, Didn't want to see what he'd written on the day he decided her death was worth $2 million. But she opened the journal anyway. Found March 3rd. Took out life insurance on Claire today. $2 million if something happens during childbirth. Terrible thought, but practical. The pregnancy is high risk. The doctor said there's a 20% chance she won't survive delivery. If the worst happens, at least I'll be financially secure. Sienna and I could start our life together without money stress. The baby kicked. Hard. Like she knew. Like she understood that her father had been hoping they'd both die so he could collect insurance money and start fresh with his mistress. He wanted us dead, Claire whispered. Not just gone. Dead. Grace made a sound like a wounded animal. Oh my God, Claire. Rebecca's expression was granite. This is attempted financial exploitation. Maybe even criminal. We can use this. To do what? Prove my husband is a monster? I already know that. To destroy him in court, to make sure he never works as a lawyer again, to ensure you get every single penny you're entitled to and then some. Rebecca started organizing documents into folders. This changes everything. This isn't just a divorce. This is systematic financial abuse with potential criminal implications. Claire felt something shift inside her, something cold and hard settling into place where her heart used to be. The grief was still there, the hurt, the betrayal. But underneath it all was something new. Rage. Pure, cold, calculated rage. I want him to lose everything, she said. Her voice didn't sound like her own. His money, his reputation, his career, everything. Good, Rebecca said, because that's exactly what we're going to take. Claire did that thing she always did when overwhelmed. She counted ceiling tiles, 17, floor tiles visible from the bed, 23, buttons on Rebecca's suit jacket, 6, files in the box, 14. It didn't help. The numbers didn't make anything better, but they gave her brain something to do other than spiral into the darkness. After Rebecca left to file additional motions, Claire asked Lydia to help her to the bathroom again. She sat on the edge of the tub, fully clothed, cold tile beneath her, fluorescent light humming overhead. The fetal monitor's sound echoed from the other room. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. She pressed both hands to her belly. Your father took out a life insurance policy hoping we'd die, she whispered. He bet $2 million on our deaths. That's who he is. That's what we're dealing with. The baby kicked, strong, insistent. I know, Claire continued. We're still here. We're still fighting. And we're going to make sure he regrets every single decision that led to this moment. She stayed in the bathroom for 15 minutes. Grace knocked twice. Claire told her she was fine. She wasn't fine, but she would be, eventually. When she came back to bed, Jonathan was there. He'd brought dinner again, Thai food this time, from the place near her old apartment, the one she'd lived in before Marcus convinced her to move into his place in Pacific Heights. How did you know I liked Thai food, she asked. You mentioned it 4 years ago at the museum gala. You said you missed the Thai place near your old apartment, but Marcus didn't like spicy food, so you never went anymore. 4 years. He remembered something she'd said 4 years ago. Marcus couldn't remember what she'd said 4 minutes ago. They ate in silence for a while. The pad thai was perfect. The right amount of peanuts, the right amount of lime. Small things, but right now, small things felt enormous. Rebecca showed me the journal, Jonathan finally said, and the life insurance policy. So now you know, my husband didn't just want to leave me. He wanted me dead. I know he's a monster, and I know we're going to destroy him. Jonathan's voice was steel. When Rebecca first told me about the life insurance, I wanted to fly to St. Bart's, find him on that beach, throw him into the ocean. Let him see what drowning actually feels like. But you didn't. No, because that would be satisfying for about 5 minutes. What I'm planning will be satisfying for decades. He looked at her directly. We're going to take everything from him, Claire. His money, his reputation, his career, his dignity, everything, and we're going to do it legally, methodically, with maximum devastation. Why? The question came out smaller than she intended. Why do you care so much? This can't just be about revenge for stolen code. Jonathan was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was different, vulnerable in a way she hadn't heard before. My mother died believing she wasn't enough, that my father left because she failed somehow. I couldn't save her, couldn't convince her that his leaving was about him being broken, not about her being insufficient. He met her eyes. But I can save you, can make sure you never doubt your worth, can prove that Marcus leaving says everything about him and nothing about you. Claire's throat closed. Tears burned behind her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Not yet. She'd fallen apart enough for one day. Thank you, she whispered, for seeing me, for remembering things I said years ago, for caring when my own husband doesn't. He's an idiot, Jonathan said simply, and he's about to find out exactly what it costs to underestimate you. That night, after Jonathan left and Grace went home to get some sleep, Claire lay in the dark hospital room and did something she never thought she'd do. She read Marcus's entire journal. Every page, every entry, every casual cruelty, every calculation, every assessment of her worth. 7 years of their relationship through his eyes. 7 years of him cataloging her failures, her inadequacies, all the ways she didn't measure up to his standards. September 12th, Claire wants to go to that gallery opening. I said no. She doesn't understand that networking with artists won't help my career. She doesn't get it. December 20th, Claire's upset I'm working late again. Doesn't she understand I'm building our future? Her needs are exhausting. February 8th, Claire asked if we could try for a baby. I said yes, even though I don't want children. But it makes her happy, and happy wives are easier to manage. On, page after page, year after year. He'd never loved her. Not really. She'd been a project, a possession, something to manage and mold and control. But there was one entry that stood out, written 2 weeks ago, right before the collapse. Almost time. Everything's in place. Accounts moved, property transferred, Sienna's ready, just waiting for the right moment. The pregnancy complications might actually work in my favor. If something happens, the insurance pays out. If nothing happens, I use her medical crisis as cover for leaving. Either way, I win. The hardest part is admitting I knew all along. I knew Diane hated me. I knew Marcus prioritized his mother's opinion over mine. I knew their relationship was unhealthy. I just didn't want to believe I'd married a man who would always choose mommy over me, or that he was capable of this level of calculated cruelty. Claire closed the journal, set it on the bedside table, stared at the ceiling. She should feel destroyed, should feel like her entire life had been a lie. Instead, she felt something different. Clarity. For 7 years, she'd twisted herself into knots trying to be enough for Marcus, trying to be smarter, prettier, more interesting, less needy, exhausting herself trying to be someone he could love. But he was never capable of loving anyone. He was only capable of using people. And now he'd made a fatal mistake. He'd left her alive. The house held more secrets than Claire realized. But first, she had to survive what everyone else discovered. Word spread fast in their social circle. By day 3 of Claire's hospital stay, the gossip machine was running at full capacity. Marcus and Sienna were Instagram official. Photos flooded social media every few hours. Beach photos, pool photos, candlelit dinner photos, all with captions about new beginnings and true love and finally being free. Claire's phone exploded with messages. Most were performative sympathy. I'm so sorry this happened to you. If you need anything, I'm here. Men are such trash. Empty words from people who would ghost her within a month, who would stop inviting her to dinner parties because divorced women made couples uncomfortable, who would slowly fade from her life like she'd never existed. But some messages cut deeper. Diane Westfield sent a group text to Marcus's entire family at 9 in the morning on day 4. I want everyone to know that I fully support my son's decision to pursue happiness. That girl trapped him with a pregnancy, trying to secure her financial future. Now he's finally free to find real love with someone who actually understands him. Sienna is a breath of fresh air after years of Claire's manipulative behavior. We welcome her to the family with open arms. That girl, as if Claire was a stranger, a gold digger, a conniving woman who'd trapped Marcus with a pregnancy. Never mind that Marcus had begged her to start trying for a baby. Never mind that he'd been the one pushing for it. Never mind that she'd wanted to wait another year. Grace saw Claire reading the message, grabbed the phone out of her hands. Don't give her that power. Grace deleted the message, blocked Diane's number. She's protecting her precious boy's reputation. Classic narcissist mother move. She knows what he did is inexcusable, so she's rewriting history to make you the villain. She called me a gold digger who trapped her son with a pregnancy. She's a delusional woman who raised a sociopath and refuses to admit she failed as a parent. Grace sat on the edge of the bed. Let me tell you something about Diane Westfield. I've been photographing her charity events for 3 years. I've watched her. She's never happy unless she's the center of attention. Marcus learned everything he knows about manipulation from her. But everyone will believe her. His family, his friends, everyone in our social circle. Let them. The people who matter will see through it. The rest don't deserve you anyway. Grace pulled up a different message. Look at this. It's from Kathleen Chen. She was at your wedding. The message read, I saw Diane's text. Ignore her. Anyone with eyes could see Marcus was the one pushing for a baby. You're better off without him and his toxic mother. If you need anything, real anything, call me. Small kindness, but in this moment it felt enormous. Other messages came in throughout the day. Some genuine, some nosy, some from people Claire hadn't heard from in years suddenly wanting details. But the worst came that afternoon. A video. Someone at the Regency Club had recorded Marcus's drunken celebration and sold it to a gossip blog, because apparently nothing was sacred when there was money to be made from humiliation. Grace tried to keep Claire from watching. Failed. The video was 90 seconds of pure venom. Marcus stood at the bar, drunk and grinning. Sienna draped on his arm like an expensive accessory. Several other men around him, laughing, egging him on. You want to know the truth? Marcus's voice was slurred, triumphant. I've been planning this for months, waiting for the perfect moment. The pregnancy was actually perfect timing. High risk, complications. She's emotional, completely dependent. She won't fight back. She'll just take whatever I offer and be grateful. Someone off camera laughed, asked about the baby. Marcus waved dismissively, his wedding ring still on his finger. I'll pay the court-ordered minimum, but I'm not playing daddy to a kid I never really wanted. Claire pushed for this baby. She said it was time. I went along with it to keep the peace, but now I'm free and I'm not looking back. The camera panned to Sienna. She giggled, kissed his cheek, looked directly at the camera. You're so brave for choosing your happiness over obligation. That takes real courage. The video ended. Claire stared at her phone screen. He said he never wanted the baby, said it on camera, for everyone to hear, for their daughter to someday see. The monitor started beeping, blood pressure spiking, heart rate climbing. Dr. Morrison rushed in. What happened? Grace showed her the video without a word. Dr. Morrison's face went from concerned to furious in about 3 seconds. Turn that off now, Claire, I need you to breathe. Deep breaths, your blood pressure is dangerously high. But Claire couldn't breathe, couldn't think past the words echoing in her head. A kid I never really wanted. Claire pushed for this baby. I'm not looking back. The internet exploded within an hour. The video went viral. 3 million views in 6 hours. 5 million by evening. Comments flooded in. Thousands upon thousands of them. I hope his daughter sees this someday and knows exactly what kind of man her father is. The wife is in the hospital D-ing and he's partying with a model? I hope karma destroys him. Someone find this Claire woman and tell her she dodged a bullet. He's absolute garbage. That model is almost as bad. Brave for choosing happiness. He abandoned his dying pregnant wife. You vapid idiot. I've seen some terrible things done on the internet, but this might be the worst. What kind of monster brags about abandoning his family? The comments went on and on. The video was shared by major news outlets, entertainment sites, parenting blogs, relationship advice pages. Marcus Westfield was trending. Not for his legal prowess, not for his successful career. For being nominated as the worst human being on the internet today, which was really saying something. Grace pulled up the view count. 7.2 million views. It's everywhere. Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Reddit, every major platform. Claire's hands were numb. Her face was numb. Her entire body felt disconnected from reality. I'm viral. I'm a meme. I'm the cautionary tale mothers will tell their daughters about choosing better partners. The hospital staff started treating her differently. They'd all seen the video. Everyone had seen the video. Their expressions shifted from professional sympathy to genuine outrage. Nurse Lydia brought lunch with shaking hands. If you need anything, anything at all, I know people. I can make his life very difficult. Even Dr. Morrison, usually so composed, looked furious during evening rounds. I've been practicing medicine for 23 years. I've never wanted to violate my Hippocratic oath more than I do right now. Well, don't, Claire said. Her voice was surprisingly steady. He's not worth your career. You're handling this with remarkable grace. No, I'm in shock. There's a difference. Claire gestured at her phone, which hadn't stopped buzzing with notifications. Tomorrow I'll probably cry for 6 hours straight. Today I'm just numb. But the numbness cracked when Rebecca called an emergency meeting. She arrived within an hour, tablet in hand, expression grim. We need to pivot strategy. This video changes everything. How? Public opinion is on your side, completely, overwhelmingly, which means we can use pressure beyond the courtroom. Rebecca pulled up a document. I've drafted a statement for you to release. Nothing vengeful, nothing angry, just facts, truth, dignity. I don't want to make a statement. I don't want to be public about this. I understand, but silence will be interpreted as weakness. Marcus is controlling the narrative. He's painted himself as a man bravely choosing happiness over obligation. You need to paint the reality. A man who abandoned his dying wife and unborn child. A man who admitted on camera he never wanted his daughter. The video already says that. The video is him drunk at a bar. Your statement would be you, calm, dignified, telling your truth directly. Rebecca handed her the tablet. Read it. If you hate it, we don't release it. But I think you need to tell your side. Claire read the draft statement once, twice, 3 times. By the 4th time, she was crying. It was perfect. Not angry, not bitter, just true. When do we release it? She asked. Tomorrow morning, when people are commuting to work, checking social media, looking for updates. Rebecca took back the tablet. It'll go viral within minutes, I guarantee it. That night at 3 in the morning, Claire had her breakdown, the one she'd been holding back, the one building like a tsunami behind a dam. It started with tears, silent at first, then racking sobs that shook the hospital bed. Nurse Lydia heard it during rounds, didn't say anything, just sat in the chair next to the bed and held Claire's hand while she fell apart. He said he never wanted the baby. The words came out between gasping sobs. He said it on camera, for everyone to hear, for her to someday see. How do I tell my daughter that her father publicly declared she was unwanted before she was even born? You tell her that her father is a small, broken man who couldn't recognize the gift he was given. Lydia's grip tightened on Claire's hand. You tell her she was so loved by her mother that you fought through hell to bring her into the world. But the whole world knows now. There's video evidence, permanent record. She'll grow up knowing her father wished she didn't exist. No. She'll grow up knowing her father is an idiot who lost the 2 most important people in his life because he couldn't see past his own selfishness. Lydia adjusted Claire's pillows. My father left when I was 3, told my mom he never wanted kids. She told me when I turned 18. You know what I realized? His rejection said everything about him and nothing about me. That's different. There wasn't video evidence of it. Actually, there was. Home videos, Christmas mornings where he looked miserable, birthday parties where he couldn't be bothered to show up. My mom kept them all. She showed me when I was old enough. Lydia smiled sadly. And you know what? It helped, because I could see with my own eyes that he was incapable of love. Not just love for me, love for anyone. including himself. Claire hiccuped a laugh through tears. You're saying I should show her the video? When she's old enough? Maybe. Let her see exactly who he is. Take away any fantasy she might build about him being different, about him wanting her if only circumstances had been better. Lydia stood. Sometimes the truth is the kindest thing you can give someone, even when it hurts. Claire cried for another hour. Lydia sat with her the entire time, didn't try to stop the tears, didn't offer platitudes, just sat there, present, witnessing. Eventually the tears stopped. Exhaustion took over. Claire fell into a dreamless sleep, listening to her daughter's heartbeat. Whoosh, 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 still there, still fighting, still alive. Tomorrow she'd release the statement. Tomorrow she'd tell her truth. Tomorrow she'd start fighting back. But tonight she let herself break. Because sometimes breaking is the only way to rebuild stronger. Claire's response was only 93 words, but they were 93 words that broke the internet. Rebecca arrived at dawn with the final draft and a plan. I kept it short, powerful, impossible to misconstrue. She handed Claire the tablet. Read it one more time. If you're comfortable, we release it in 15 minutes. Claire read the statement for the 10th time. Her hands were steady now. The crying was done. The breaking was complete. Now came the building back. The statement read, I'm Claire Westfield. 5 days ago, I nearly died from placental abruption while 8 months pregnant with my first child. While I was on life support fighting for our daughter's life, my husband sent a text message ending our marriage. He withdrew our joint funds, transferred marital assets, and flew to St. Bart's with his girlfriend. I don't have time for anger right now. I'm focused on surviving so my daughter has a mother. But I want to say this clearly. No woman deserves this. No child deserves a father who publicly declares them unwanted. And no man gets to claim bravery while abandoning responsibility. I will heal. My daughter will thrive. And Marcus Westfield will have to live with his choices forever. To everyone who has sent support, thank you. To every woman who has been left during a crisis, you are not alone. We are stronger than the men who underestimated us. It's perfect, Claire whispered. When do we post it? Now. Rebecca pulled out her phone, opened a newly created social media account in Claire's name, typed the statement, attached a simple photo of Claire from before the pregnancy, looking healthy, happy, strong. Ready? Claire nodded. Rebecca hit post. They waited. 15 seconds. 30. A minute. The first share came at 90 seconds. Then another. Then 10. Then 100. By 5 minutes, the statement had been shared 5,000 times. By 10 minutes, major news outlets were picking it up. By 30 minutes, Claire Westfield was trending globally. The response was overwhelming. Comments flooded in, thousands upon thousands of them. And they weren't just sympathy, they were solidarity. My husband left me during chemo, told our friends I was too depressing to be around. I understand, Claire, I see you. Mine waited until I was 7 months pregnant to admit he'd been cheating for 2 years. You're not alone. I thought I was the only one. Thank you for showing me I'm not. Thank you for speaking up. This woman is stronger than every man who has ever abandoned a woman in crisis combined. Claire Westfield just became my hero. She's dying, pregnant, abandoned, and she still manages to be more dignified than her ex-husband could ever dream of being. The comments became a movement. Women sharing their stories, supporting each other, creating a collective voice that drowned out the trolls and the Marcus defenders. Because there were Marcus defenders. Of course there were. She probably deserved it. Women always play victim. Maybe he left because she was crazy. Pregnant women are emotional. Gold digger trying to steal his money through public sympathy. But for every defender, there were 100 women shutting them down. Found the guy who's never been in a healthy relationship. Tell us you abandon women without telling us you abandon women. The misogyny is strong with this one. Blocked. Grace read comments aloud, alternating between crying and laughing. Listen to this one. Claire Westfield wrote 93 words and destroyed her ex-husband more thoroughly than any lawyer ever could. Even Sienna's Instagram got flooded. Her carefully curated photos of beach sunsets and designer handbags were now bombarded with comments. How does it feel to be with a man who abandoned his dying wife? The karma is coming, honey, and it won't be Instagram filter pretty. You're not brave. You're complicit in cruelty. I hope you're worth destroying a family over. Spoiler, you're not. Sienna made her account private within 6 hours. Too late. Screenshots were everywhere. Her follower count started dropping. Brands started quietly removing her from campaigns. The gossip sites had new headlines by afternoon. Abandoned wife's dignified response puts cheating husband to shame. Claire Westfield's statement is everything we need to hear. Model Sienna Vale faces backlash after role in pregnancy abandonment. Jonathan visited that evening, found Claire sitting in the dark, just sitting, staring out at the city lights, not crying, not sleeping, just existing in the space between catastrophe and survival. "You okay?" he asked quietly. "I don't know," she answered honestly. "I don't know what okay feels like anymore. My normal was shattered. I'm building a new normal from pieces of the old one, but I don't know what shape it's supposed to take." He sat in the chair next to her bed, didn't offer platitudes, didn't try to fix anything, just sat there. Sometimes silence is the most honest response. They sat like that for 20 minutes, just existing together. The fetal monitor whooshing, the city lights glittering through the window. Two people in the wreckage of different disasters, finding strange comfort in shared silence. Finally, Jonathan spoke. "You're going to be okay. Not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually." "How do you know?" "Because you're still fighting, still showing up, still refusing to disappear quietly." He looked at her directly. "Marcus thought he could discard you like you were nothing. You just proved you are everything." But Marcus responded to Claire's statement with characteristic arrogance. His lawyer released a counter-statement at 10 p.m. Mr. Westfield is saddened by his ex-wife's attempts to manipulate public opinion through social media. The truth is, their marriage had been over for years. He has every right to pursue happiness with someone who shares his values and vision for the future. So, Westfield's medical condition, while unfortunate, does not obligate Mr. Westfield to remain in an unhappy marriage. He intends to fulfill his legal obligations to his child while maintaining appropriate boundaries with his former spouse. He asked for privacy during this difficult transition. The statement made everything worse for him. Comments exploded again. Their marriage was over for years, but he got her pregnant 8 months ago. Math isn't mathing. Appropriate boundaries from his newborn daughter? What does that even mean? Legal obligations? You mean the bare minimum? What a hero. Difficult transition? For who? The guy on a tropical beach or the woman fighting for her life? Even his own lawyer seemed to realize the optics were terrible because they followed up 30 minutes later with a clarification. To clarify, Mr. Westfield is committed to being a present father. He simply needs time to process this difficult situation before resuming regular contact. Time to process on a beach in St. Bart's. Got it. He had plenty of time to process while draining bank accounts and planning his escape. This lawyer should be fired. They're making their client look worse with every statement. The law firm where Marcus worked as a senior partner released their own statement the next morning. "We are reviewing the situation involving Marcus Westfield. His personal matters do not reflect the values of our firm. We will be conducting an internal review to ensure all professional standards have been maintained." Rebecca practically cackled when she read it. They're going to fire him or force him to resign. This is unprecedented. Why? Because family law is built on trust. Clients need to believe their lawyer will protect their interests, especially during vulnerable times like divorce or custody battles. Rebecca pulled up the firm's website. Look at their mission statement. Dedicated to protecting families during life's most difficult transitions. A senior partner who publicly abandons his dying pregnant wife is a liability no firm can afford. "Good," Claire said, and she meant it. "I hope he loses everything." "He will. We'll make sure of it." Rebecca pulled up her calendar. "We have a court hearing in 3 days. Temporary orders. The judge will decide on temporary support, asset freezes, and preliminary custody arrangements." "I'll be there." "No, you won't. Doctor's orders. You're on complete bed rest." Rebecca held up a hand before Claire could argue. "You'll appear via video conference. I already cleared it with the judge. She's allowing it given your medical condition. Dr. Morrison did her evening rounds and was not pleased with Claire's elevated blood pressure. Again. You need to find a way to release this stress. The baby is stable now, but your body is under enormous strain. How am I supposed to release stress? My husband abandoned me, stole our money, admitted on camera he never wanted our daughter, and is now on a beach somewhere living his best life. I know, and it's horrific, truly unconscionable. Dr. Morrison sat on the edge of the bed. But right now, your body is trying to grow a baby and fight a war. It can't do both. Something has to give. So what? I just accept what happened? Let it go? Forgive him? God, no. Never forgive him. He doesn't deserve forgiveness. Dr. Morrison's expression was fierce. But find a way to put the anger somewhere other than your body. Journal. Talk to friends. Scream into pillows. Whatever works, because right now your blood pressure is high enough to cause another placental abruption. If that happens, we'll lose the baby. Maybe you too. The words were a bucket of ice water, reality crashing back. Claire wasn't just fighting Marcus. She was fighting her own body, fighting to keep her daughter alive long enough to be born. Okay, she whispered, I'll try. That night, Grace brought her a journal. Plain leather. Nothing fancy. Dr. Morrison called me, said you need to start writing things down, getting them out of your head. I don't know what to write. Anything, everything. It doesn't have to be profound, just true. Grace set the journal on the bedside table. Write about how you're feeling, what you're thinking, what you want to say to Marcus but can't. After Grace left, Claire opened the journal, stared at the blank page. She wrote, I deserve better than this. I deserved a partner, not a predator. I deserved love, not calculation. I deserved honesty, not a 7-year con. And I definitely didn't deserve to have my pain turned into entertainment for strangers. But I'm grateful. Grateful that Marcus left before the baby was born. Grateful I found out who he really was before wasting more years. Grateful that my daughter will never know what it's like to have a father who pretends to love you while planning your destruction. We're going to be okay. Not today, not tomorrow, but someday. And that someday is worth fighting for. She fell asleep with the journal on her lap and her daughter's heartbeat filling the room. Whoosh, 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 still here, still fighting, still refusing to give up. Tomorrow would bring new battles, but tonight they'd survived another day, and that was enough. But mercy wasn't the victory Claire needed. What happened next would change everything. 2 weeks passed, 14 days of monitoring, 14 days of bed rest, 14 days of watching Marcus's life continue on Instagram while hers remained frozen in a hospital room. The baby's heart rate stabilized, but Claire was still at high risk. Dr. Morrison extended bed rest indefinitely. No going home, no returning to normal life. Just hospital rooms and monitors and waiting. Marcus's lawyer filed a motion to delay all divorce proceedings until after the baby was born. Claimed his client couldn't negotiate properly while emotions were running high. Rebecca tore the motion apart in her written response. Opposing counsel's client managed to negotiate asset transfers, lease agreements, and international travel arrangements while his wife was unconscious. He can certainly negotiate a fair divorce settlement now that she's awake. This is a transparent attempt to delay inevitable consequences. The judge agreed. Proceedings would continue. Then Marcus made his biggest mistake. He showed up at the hospital, not to see Claire, not to apologize, to serve her with papers demanding a paternity test. Security stopped him in the main lobby. Grace happened to be there, arriving for her daily visit. She recorded everything on her phone. I need to see my wife. Marcus looked terrible, unshaven, eyes red-rimmed. The tropical vacation glow had faded. He wore wrinkled clothes and had clearly been drinking. Ex-wife, Grace corrected, stepping between Marcus and the elevators. And no, you don't. You're not on her visitor list. I'm the father of her baby. Are you? Because I thought you weren't sure. Something about a paternity test. Grace's voice dripped poison, every word calculated to wound. Funny how you were certain enough when you were getting her pregnant, but now that child support is on the table, suddenly you have doubts. Marcus's face flushed red. That baby might not be mine. Claire had opportunities. She traveled for work. She has male colleagues. She could have. Don't you dare finish that sentence. Grace stepped closer, phone still recording. She has a phone that tracks her location, credit card statements showing she was never anywhere except work and home. You want to see them? Because we have them. All of them. You have no right to. Your soon-to-be ex-wife's lawyer has every right. Discovery is a beautiful thing. Grace pulled out her own phone, showed him something on the screen. But you know what else we have? Receipts from hotels across the city, charges to your credit card for 2 dinners, 2 bottles of champagne, while your pregnant wife was home alone thinking you were working late. The color drained from Marcus's face. Those are confidential financial records. You can't access, except we did, legally, through proper channels. Every hotel, every dinner, every time you told Claire you were working late while you were actually with Sienna. Grace turned the phone to show security guards, who were now very interested in this conversation. We have 11 months of receipt. Want to guess how many coincide with nights you told your wife you were at the office? Marcus grabbed for the phone. Grace stepped back. Security moved forward. Sir, you need to leave, one guard said firmly. I have a right to see my wife, to discuss our child. You have a right to contact her through your lawyer, which is what her lawyer told your lawyer yesterday. The guard gestured toward the door. Leave now or we'll call the police. Marcus looked at Grace, at the phone still recording, at the security guards closing in. He seemed to make a calculation. Decide retreat was better than arrest. Tell Claire this isn't over. Tell her I know that baby might not be mine. Tell her she's not getting a penny more than the law requires. I'll tell her you're a coward who can't face the consequences of your own actions, Grace said sweetly. Now get out of this hospital before I forget I'm a professional and show you exactly what women think of men who abandon their dying wives. Marcus left. The video was on social media within an hour. The gossip sites picked it up by evening. Cheating husband demands paternity test from wife he abandoned. Marcus Westfield shows up at hospital to serve dying wife with papers. New low, model's boyfriend accuses pregnant wife of cheating. Even his mother, Diane, released a statement. Weak, insufficient, but something. My son's behavior has become unrecognizable to me. I raised him to be better than this. I'm deeply disappointed. Too little, too late. But it was an acknowledgement that even his biggest offender couldn't justify this latest cruelty. Marcus withdrew the paternity demand 24 hours later. His lawyer claimed it was improperly advised during a moment of emotional stress. Rebecca laughed so hard she almost cried. Translation: every judge in the state is going to hate him, and he knows it. No family court judge will look kindly on a man who accused his dying wife of infidelity while offering zero evidence. But the stress took its toll on Claire. Her blood pressure spiked dangerously that night. The baby's heart rate became erratic. Alarms went off. Nurses rushed in. Dr. Morrison appeared within minutes. She checked monitors, examined Claire, made a decision. We're doing an emergency C-section. Right now, she's 36 weeks. That's viable. Premature, but viable. But if we wait any longer, we risk losing you both. Everything happened fast after that. Too fast. Claire was wheeled to pre-op. IV lines inserted. Monitors attached. Forms signed. She was terrified. Grace appeared out of nowhere, grabbed her hand. You're going to be fine. The baby's going to be fine. This is happening early, but it's happening. You're going to meet your daughter today. What if something goes wrong? Nothing's going to go wrong. You're too stubborn to die. Grace squeezed her hand. And your daughter is too stubborn to give up. She gets that from you. Jonathan appeared in the doorway. Claire had no idea how he'd gotten there so fast, but he was there, present, real. I called him, Grace said. Figured you shouldn't be alone. I'm here, Jonathan said quietly. You're not alone. I'll be right here when you wake up. What if I don't wake up? You will. His voice was absolute certainty. No doubt, no hesitation. You're too stubborn not to. Your daughter needs you. Grace needs you. And despite everything, the world needs you. So you're going to wake up. Claire wanted to believe him, wanted to feel that certainty, but fear was overwhelming everything else. They wheeled her through the surgical doors. Jonathan and Grace disappeared from view. She was alone with doctors and nurses and bright lights. The C-section took 47 minutes. Claire was conscious but numb from the chest down. She felt tugging, pressure, pulling. Dr. Morrison's calm voice giving instructions. Then a sound that changed everything. A cry, tiny, absolutely furious at being born early. Her daughter's cry. "She's here," Dr. Morrison announced. 7 pounds, 3 ounces, 20 inches long. "She's perfect, Claire, absolutely perfect." They held her up for Claire to see. Just a glimpse. Tiny, red-faced, screaming, beautiful. Then they took her away to be examined, to make sure her lungs were strong enough, to check all the things they check with premature babies. Claire was stitched up, wheeled to recovery. Darkness pulled at the edges of her vision. She let it take her. When she woke up, Jonathan was there, exactly where he'd promised to be. "She's perfect," he told her immediately. 7 pounds, 3 ounces, 20 inches long, 10 fingers, 10 toes. Lungs are strong, heart is perfect. She's in the NICU for observation, but only as a precaution, standard for 36-weekers. "Can I see her?" "In about an hour, once you're stable. But she's fine, Claire. Your daughter is fine." Claire closed her eyes, felt tears leak from the corners. Relief, grief, joy, terror, every emotion at once. Her daughter was here, alive, real. No longer just kicks and heartbeats, but an actual person. And Marcus wasn't here to meet her. They brought Emma to her that evening. Emma, the name Claire had chosen months ago, the name she'd never discussed with Marcus because she knew he'd want something pretentious and aristocratic. Emma was tiny, impossibly tiny, wrapped in a hospital blanket with a little pink hat covering her head. Claire held her daughter for the first time and felt the final piece of her old life shatter completely. This wasn't Marcus's baby anymore. This wasn't their family. This was her daughter, her responsibility, her future. "Hi, baby girl." Claire touched Emma's impossibly small hand. Emma's fingers wrapped around her mother's finger. "I'm your mom, and I promise you, you will never doubt that you are wanted, you are loved, you are the best thing I've ever done." Emma opened her eyes, dark blue, unfocused but searching, like she was trying to figure out this strange new world. And Claire fell in love for the first time in her life. Real love, unconditional love, the kind that doesn't require performance or perfection or pretending to be someone you're not. Grace took photos. Jonathan watched from the doorway with an expression Claire couldn't quite read. Soft, vulnerable, like he was witnessing something sacred. Nurse Lydia brought paperwork, birth certificate, name, father's name. Claire stared at the father line. She could leave it blank. Could make Marcus fight for paternity recognition. Could use it as a weapon. Make him prove he deserved to be listed as Emma's father. But that would hurt Emma someday, would create questions and complications and pain. Claire refused to use her daughter as a weapon. She wrote Marcus Westfield. Then in the notes section, where there was space for additional information, she added, "Father refused hospital visit. Abandoned child and mother during medical crisis. Demanded paternity test before withdrawing request." It was petty. It was small. It was also permanent record. Rebecca would love it. Claire handed the paperwork back to Lydia, looked down at Emma sleeping in her arms. "We're going to be okay," she whispered. "I don't know how yet, but we will." Emma made a small sound, not quite a cry, more like agreement. Outside the window, San Francisco sparkled in the evening light. And for the first time since waking up in the ICU 3 weeks ago, Claire felt something other than fear. She felt hope. Dangerous, fragile, but real. They'd survived the worst. Now came the hard part, living. But the real victory wasn't revenge. It was discovering who she became when she stopped trying to be enough for someone else. Claire and Emma were discharged 5 days after the C-section. 5 days of learning to breastfeed. 5 days of changing diapers. 5 days of becoming a mother while her body healed from surgery and trauma. There was a problem, though. They had nowhere to go. Marcus had changed the locks on their house. Rebecca filed emergency paperwork, but the court hearing wasn't scheduled for another week. Until then, Claire legally couldn't access her own home. "You'll stay with me," Grace offered immediately when they discussed the discharge plan. "Your apartment is 600 square feet. There's barely room for you, much less me and a newborn. Then we'll be cozy. We'll make it work." Jonathan cleared his throat. He'd been sitting quietly in the corner during this conversation. Present but not intruding. "I have another option, if you're comfortable with it." Claire looked at him. "What kind of option?" "I own a townhouse in Pacific Heights, 3 bedrooms, fully furnished. Currently empty because I'm traveling constantly for work. I stay in hotels when I'm in the city." He spoke carefully, neutrally. "You could sway their stem for as long as you need. No rent, no obligation, just a safe place to recover with Emma." "I can't accept that." "Why not?" His expression was genuinely confused. "The house is sitting empty. You need a safe place to heal and care for your daughter. This isn't charity, Claire. It's practicality." Grace looked between them. "He has a point. A 3-bedroom townhouse is better than my couch." Claire did what she always did when a decision felt too big. She made a mental pro-con list. Pro, safe housing for Emma. Con, accepting help from Jonathan made her dependent. Pro, proximity to the hospital if something went wrong. Con, what did Jonathan really want in return? Pro, nursery already set up. Con, she barely knew him. Pro, she had no other options. Con, she had no other options. That was the problem. She was choosing from necessity, not strength. But maybe that was okay. Maybe survival first, independence later. "Okay," she said quietly. "Thank you for ever being the lawyer, the housing, the support. I don't know how to repay you. You don't repay kindness. You pass it forward when you're able." Jonathan stood. "I'll have the house prepared for you today. Fresh linens, fully stocked kitchen, everything you need." They moved into the townhouse that afternoon. It was beautiful. Hardwood floors, crown molding, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the bay. A kitchen that was actually functional, not the trophy kitchen Marcus had installed in their house to impress guests. The nursery made Claire cry. White furniture, soft yellow walls, a rocking chair by the window with a view of the water, shelves with books and toys, a changing table stocked with diapers and wipes. The previous owner was pregnant when they sold, Jonathan explained as he carried Emma's car seat upstairs. She had twins, moved to a bigger place in Marin, but she designed this room with so much love. I couldn't bear to change it. "It's perfect," Claire whispered. "It's yours, for as long as you need it." Grace helped Claire settle in. Jonathan disappeared to his downtown office, giving them space and privacy. The first night in the townhouse, Emma woke up crying at 2 in the morning. Claire stumbled to the nursery, still sore from surgery, still exhausted from everything. Her body protested every movement. She picked up Emma, sat in the rocking chair, nursed her daughter while looking out at the city lights. This wasn't the life she'd planned. This wasn't the family she'd imagined. She should be in her own home with her husband, sharing night feedings and diaper changes and the overwhelming joy of new parenthood. Instead, she was in a stranger's house. Well, not quite a stranger anymore, but still, this wasn't her home. But sitting there holding her daughter, watching the city sleep, Claire felt something unexpected. Peace. Not happiness, not yet, but peace. The storm had passed. They'd survived. "Starting over feels impossible," she whispered to Emma, but staying in the wreckage felt worse. "So I guess we're starting over. One day at a time, one feeding at a time, one breath at a time." Emma's eyes were closed, but her little hand gripped Claire's finger, holding on, trusting completely. The divorce proceedings accelerated over the following weeks. Rebecca was relentless. She filed motion after motion, requested document after document, made Marcus's life increasingly uncomfortable. The court hearing for the house happened 2 weeks after Emma's birth. Claire attended via video from the townhouse. Too soon for post-surgery travel. Too risky with a newborn to bring into a courtroom. She watched on screen as Marcus showed up in person. He looked confident. His new lawyer, the third one he'd hired, argued that Claire should sell the house and split proceeds. My client acknowledges this is a difficult situation, but the reality is Mrs. Westfield cannot afford the mortgage on her own. Selling the home and dividing assets is the fairest solution for both parties. Rebecca stood. Her expression was ice. Your Honor, opposing counsel's client systematically hid marital assets, transferred property to family members, and forged his wife's signature on multiple documents. He gave up any right to fairness when he committed fraud. She presented the evidence: the transfers to Marcus's brother, the properties in his mother's name, the forged signatures, the journal entries planning the abandonment. The judge, a woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and no patience for nonsense, looked at Marcus with pure contempt. Mr. Westfield, I've reviewed the evidence in this case. I've also seen the video of you bragging about planning your wife's abandonment while she was on life support. I've read your journal entries about seeing your wife's high-risk pregnancy as a potential insurance payout. She paused, let the words sink in. In my 30 years on the bench, I have never encountered such calculated cruelty. Marcus paled. Your Honor, that video was taken out of context. The context is that you were drunk and honest for once in your miserable life, which is somehow worse than being a calculating liar. The judge looked at her paperwork. The house is awarded to Mrs. Westfield. Full ownership. You will remove your remaining belongings within 48 hours under supervised access. You are also ordered to pay retroactive spousal support in the amount of $12,000 per month, backdated to the day you abandoned your wife. Marcus's lawyer objected, got shut down immediately. Furthermore, the judge continued, you are ordered to pay child support in the amount of $6,000 per month. You will maintain a $2 million life insurance policy with your daughter as sole beneficiary, and you will cover all medical expenses related to Mrs. Westfield's pregnancy complications and your daughter's NICU stay. Your Honor, I can't afford, Marcus started. You can and you will, unless you'd prefer to explain to a criminal court why you committed fraud, forgery, and financial exploitation. The judge signed orders with sharp, angry movements. You made your choices, Mr. Westfield. Now live with them. This court is adjourned. The gavel fell. It was over. Rebecca called Claire immediately after. We won everything: the house, support, insurance, medical expenses, everything. Claire didn't feel victorious. She felt vindicated. There was a difference. There were among. Victory implied triumph over an opponent. Vindication meant being proven right after being doubted. She'd been right all along. Marcus was a monster. The journal proved it. The life insurance proved it. His own actions proved it. And now a judge had confirmed it for the record. Thank you, Claire said, for fighting for us, for believing me. I didn't have to believe you. I just had to read the evidence. Rebecca's voice softened slightly. But for what it's worth, I do believe you. And I'm sorry you had to go through this. That night, Jonathan came by to check on them. He brought dinner from the Thai place again. Sat with Claire while she ate, and Emma slept in her bassinet. You did it, he said quietly. You won. You mean Rebecca won? No, you won. You survived. You protected your daughter. You stood up to a man who thought he could destroy you. Jonathan looked at her directly. That's winning, Claire. Maybe not the way you wanted, but winning nonetheless. Claire set down her fork, looked at this man who'd appeared in her life at the worst possible moment and somehow become essential. Why did you really help me spy? She asked. And don't say revenge for the stolen code. There's more to it, I can tell. Jonathan was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was vulnerable in a way she'd never heard before. Do you remember the charity gala 4 years ago at the museum? Vaguely. We talked for maybe 30 minutes about art and technology, about how the two fields could intersect. You mentioned wanting to curate a show exploring technology's impact on modern art. He smiled sadly. You had so many ideas, brilliant ideas. I offered to fund it. Do you remember? Claire thought back. That gala, that conversation. Yes, Marcus said no, said I was too busy to take on additional projects. He told me you weren't interested, that you thought it was a vanity project for rich tech guys. Jonathan's jaw tightened. I believed him. 3 months later, I saw you at another event. You looked diminished, smaller, like something was being slowly crushed out of you. I should have said something, should have asked if you were okay. But I didn't. I let you disappear into Marcus's shadow. Jonathan, you couldn't have known. When I heard about the hospital, about the abandonment, I couldn't let it happen again. Couldn't watch another person get destroyed by someone's narcissism and do nothing. He met her eyes. I'm helping you because I should have helped you 4 years ago. This is my second chance to get it right. The air between them shifted, became charged with something Claire couldn't quite name. Possibility maybe, or promise, or the fragile beginning of something that could become important if they were careful. I can't, Claire started. It's too soon. I'm still legally married, still healing, still figuring out how to be a single mother. I know, Jonathan stood. I'm not asking for anything. I'm explaining why I'm here. Why I'll stay here as long as you need someone in your corner. No expectations, no pressure, just support. After he left, Claire sat in the dark townhouse and let herself imagine. Not a future with Jonathan necessarily, but a future where she wasn't alone, where trust was possible again, where love didn't equal manipulation. It felt dangerous and hopeful in equal measure. She picked up the journal Dr. Morrison had given her, wrote, I'm not the same woman Marcus married. I'm not even the same woman who went into that hospital 2 months ago. I've been broken down to my foundation and rebuilt from scratch. And the surprising thing? I like this version better. She's stronger, clearer, less willing to accept crumbs and call it love. Marcus tried to destroy me. Instead, he accidentally freed me. She closed the journal, checked on Emma, fell asleep to the sound of her daughter's breathing. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. But tonight, they were safe, and that was enough. But the biggest surprise wasn't the judgment. It was who showed up at Claire's door 2 weeks later. Emma was 3 weeks old. Claire was 3 weeks into learning to be a single mother. 3 weeks of night feedings and diaper changes and the bone-deep exhaustion that comes with caring for a newborn alone. She wasn't ready for visitors, hadn't showered in 2 days, was wearing stained sweatpants and one of Grace's old t-shirts. Her hair was in a messy bun that hadn't been brushed in who knows how long. The doorbell rang at 2 in the afternoon. Claire answered it with Emma on her hip. Sienna Vale stood on the doorstep. No makeup, hair in a messy bun, similar to Claire's. The expensive designer outfits replaced with jeans and a plain t-shirt. She looked human, vulnerable, nothing like the confident influencer persona from Instagram. I'm sorry to just show up, Sienna said quickly. Her voice was small, shaky. Can we talk? Please, just 5 minutes. Claire should slam the door, should protect her peace, should not let this woman into her space. But curiosity won. You have 5 minutes, Claire said. They sat in the living room, Sienna perched on the edge of the couch like a bird ready to flee. Claire stayed near the door, Emma still in her arms. I didn't know, Sienna started, stopped, started again. About the hospital, about the life support, about any of it. Marcus told me you were separated, that the pregnancy was complicated but you were fine, that you'd both agreed to divorce months ago. And you believed him. I wanted to believe him. Sienna's eyes filled with tears. I'm not making excuses. I'm explaining. Marcus is very good at making you believe whatever he wants you to believe. What changed? The video, his drunk speech at the club. Sienna wiped her eyes. I watched him brag about planning your abandonment, about waiting for the perfect moment, about using your medical crisis as cover. That's when I realized I wasn't special. I wasn't his great love. I was convenient, young, good for his image, someone he could control. Claire recognized the look in Sienna's eyes. It was the same look she'd seen in her own mirror for years. The slow realization that you've been gaslit so thoroughly you don't trust your own perceptions anymore. The moment when the fog lifts and you see clearly how completely you were manipulated. He's done with me now, Sienna continued. Dumped me 3 days after the video went viral. Said I was bad for his image. Too much baggage, too much drama. He's already moved on to someone else. A paralegal at his firm, 22 years old. Claire laughed, couldn't help it. Of course he has. There's always a younger model, no pun intended. I came here because I have information you might need. For court. Sienna pulled out her phone. Text messages, emails, voice recordings, evidence of everything Marcus did, how he planned the asset transfers, how he got you to sign documents, how he bragged about the life insurance policy. Why would you help me? Because I was complicit in hurting you. I can't undo that, but I can make sure he doesn't get away with it. Sienna's hands were shaking. And because I'm 24 years old and I just learned the hardest lesson of my life, some men will destroy everyone around them and still sleep soundly at night. Marcus is one of them. Claire took the phone, scrolled through messages, evidence, ammunition, proof of calculated cruelty, text from Marcus to Sienna 6 months ago. Claire signed in the retirement account waiver today, didn't even read it. Too tired from the pregnancy. This is almost too easy. Email from Marcus to his brother. Transfer the rental property into mom's name. Claire won't notice. She doesn't pay attention to the finances. Voice recording of Marcus laughing. The life insurance policy is genius. If something happens during delivery, I'm set for life. If nothing happens, I still got her to sign away her retirement. Either way, I win. Rebecca was going to have a field day with this. Your lawyer will want all of this authenticated, notarized, every piece of evidence properly documented. Claire looked at Sienna, really looked at her, young, scared, realizing she'd been a pawn in someone else's game. You're going to get destroyed on social media when this comes out. When people find out you're helping me, they'll say you're trying to save face, that you're still complicit. I know. Sienna's voice was steady now, resolved. I deserve whatever comes. I made choices that hurt you. I have to live with that, but at least I can try to make it right. They spent the next hour going through evidence. Sienna explained context, dates, conversations she'd had with Marcus, things he'd said when he thought she was completely on his side. When she left, Claire felt something unexpected, not forgiveness, not yet, but understanding. Sienna had been a victim too, a different kind of victim, but still someone Marcus had used and discarded when she stopped being useful. That night, after Emma was asleep, Claire wrote in her journal, I'm not the same woman Marcus married. I'm not even the same woman who went into that hospital 3 months ago. I've been broken down to my foundation and rebuilt from scratch. And you know what? I like this version better. She's stronger, clearer, less willing to accept crumbs and call it love. Marcus tried to destroy me. Instead, he accidentally freed me. Jonathan returned from a business trip the next evening. Found Claire reorganizing the living room furniture at midnight. Rearranging furniture at midnight is either a very good sign or a very bad sign, he said from the doorway. Sienna came by today. He set down his briefcase. I heard, Grace texted me. Are you okay? I'm better than okay. She gave us everything, every piece of evidence we need to bury Marcus in court. Claire stood back from the rearranged couch. Rebecca is filing amended claims tomorrow. Fraud, forgery, financial abuse, perjury. He's not just losing the divorce. He's losing his license to practice law. How do you feel about that? Claire considered the question, really thought about it. 3 months ago, I would have begged him to come back, would have blamed myself for not being enough, would have tried harder to save our marriage. She looked at Jonathan. Now, I hope he loses everything. Not because I'm vindictive, but because he deserves consequences. And because other women deserve to see that men like him don't always win. You've changed. I've survived. There's a difference. She sat on the newly arranged couch, patted the spot next to her. Jonathan sat, careful to maintain distance, respectful of her space and boundaries. I need to tell you something, he said, about why I really helped you. Claire's stomach dropped. Here it came, the real motivation, the price for all the help. The story about my mother dying alone is true, but there's more. Jonathan stared at his hands. At that charity gala 4 years ago, when we talked about art and technology, I went home that night and couldn't stop thinking about your ideas, about you, about how alive you seemed when you talked about your work. Jonathan, let me finish. He finally looked at her. I saw you at 3 more events over the next 2 years. Each time you seemed a little dimmer, a little smaller. Marcus would pull you away whenever we started talking. I watched him slowly extinguish your light, and I did nothing. You couldn't have known what was happening. I knew enough. I knew he talked over you, dismissed your ideas, took credit for your work. Jonathan's voice cracked slightly. When I heard about the hospital, about the abandonment, I realized I'd been given a second chance. Not to save you, you're saving yourself, but to support you the way I should have years ago. The air between them shifted, became charged with something Claire had been afraid to acknowledge. I can't, she whispered. It's too soon. I'm still technically married, still broken, still figuring out how to be a mother. I know. Jonathan stood, moved toward the door. I'm not asking for anything. I'm explaining why I'm here. Why I'll stay as long as you need someone in your corner. No expectations, no pressure, just me being here. After he left, Claire sat in the dark living room and let herself imagine something she'd been too afraid to consider. A future where she wasn't alone, where trust was possible, where love didn't mean making yourself smaller, where a man could see her and not want to dim her light. It felt terrifying and hopeful in equal measure. She checked on Emma, asleep in her bassinet, perfect, peaceful, unaware of the complicated adult world she'd been born into. We're going to be okay, Claire whispered. Better than okay, we're going to be extraordinary. Emma made a small sound in her sleep. Agreement, maybe, or just a newborn noise. Either way, it felt like a promise. The courtroom was about to deliver more than justice. It was about to deliver transformation. The final divorce hearing happened on a cold December morning. Emma was 3 months old. Claire had spent those months healing, recovering, becoming someone she'd never been before. She walked into the courtroom wearing a navy suit Grace had helped her pick out. Professional, powerful. Her hair was styled, makeup applied with care. She looked nothing like the broken woman in the hospital bed 3 months ago. Marcus looked terrible, gaunt, tired, desperate. Dark circles under his eyes, suit wrinkled, hair unkempt. The past 3 months had not been kind to him. His law firm had fired him after the fraud allegations surfaced. His professional reputation was destroyed. His social circle had abandoned him. Even his mother had stopped returning his calls after the full extent of his cruelty became public knowledge. He'd lost everything. Not because of Claire's revenge, because of his own choices. The judge reviewed the evidence methodically. Sienna's recordings, the forged documents, the hidden assets, the journal entries, the life insurance policy. This is one of the most egregious cases of financial abuse and systematic manipulation I have encountered in my career, Judge Patricia Harrison said. Her voice was granite, unforgiving. Mr. Westfield systematically planned his wife's abandonment while simultaneously ensuring her financial destruction. He forged her signature on multiple legal documents. He withdrew joint funds without authorization. He transferred marital assets to family members, specifically to hide them from discovery. Marcus's lawyer, his fourth one, tried to object, got shut down with a single look. Furthermore, the judge continued, Mr. Westfield took out a $2 million life insurance policy on his high-risk pregnant wife without her knowledge or consent. He then wrote in his private journal about the practical benefit if she died during childbirth. He wagered on his wife's death like it was a business transaction. The courtroom was silent. Even the court reporter had stopped typing to stare at Marcus. You are either a sociopath or the worst person I have encountered on this bench. Possibly both. The judge looked at her paperwork. The prenuptial agreement Mr. Westfield insisted Mrs. Westfield sign is hereby invalidated in its entirety due to fraud, duress, and unconscionable terms. Marcus's face went white. Mrs. Westfield is awarded the following, Judge Harrison continued, full ownership of the marital home free and clear, spousal support in the amount of $15,000 per month for a period of 5 years, child support in the amount of $6,000 per month until the child reaches age 18 or is emancipated, 50% of all retirement accounts and investment portfolios, full reimbursement of the $312,000 illegally withdrawn from joint accounts. The numbers made Claire dizzy. It wasn't wealth, but it was security, freedom, justice. Additionally, Mr. Westfield is ordered to pay Mrs. Westfield's legal fees in full, which as of this morning total $237,000. The judge signed documents with sharp, angry strokes. He will maintain life insurance naming his daughter as sole beneficiary. He will cover all medical expenses related to the pregnancy complications and NICU stay. And he will have supervised visitation only, pending completion of a court-ordered psychological evaluation. Marcus stood. Marcus, Your Honor, I can't afford to pay all of... You should have considered that before committing fraud, forgery, and financial exploitation. The judge's expression was ice. You can pay these obligations, or you can explain to a criminal court why you shouldn't face charges. Your choice. This court is adjourned. The gavel fell. It was over. Claire walked out of the courthouse with Rebecca and Grace flanking her like bodyguards. The media swarmed immediately, cameras flashing, questions shouting, microphones shoved in her face. Rebecca had prepared a statement. Claire delivered it calmly. Today, justice was served, not just for me, but for every woman who has been financially abused by a partner. For every mother who was told she was worth less than her husband's happiness. For every person who was gaslit into doubting their own reality and worth. She paused. Let the cameras capture her face. Strong, unbroken, victorious. I didn't ask for this fight, but I'm grateful I survived it. Because on the other side of trauma is transformation. I am no longer the woman Marcus Westfield abandoned. I'm someone better, stronger, free. The statement was on every news site within 20 minutes, trending on social media within an hour. But Claire didn't see any of it. She was already gone. 6 months later. Emma was 9 months old, babbling, crawling, pulling herself up on furniture, full of personality and determination and the kind of joy that only babies possess. Claire had reopened her career, not at the corporate gallery where she'd been underpaid and undervalued. Her own gallery, in a beautiful space in Hayes Valley, funded by a silent investor who believed in her vision without trying to control it. The opening night featured the technology and art fusion show she'd wanted to curate 4 years ago. The show Marcus had killed before it could begin. The room was packed. Collectors, artists, press, tech executives, art critics, people who'd come to see what Claire Westfield had created from the ashes of her destroyed life. The pieces were stunning, digital art that responded to viewer movement, sculptures created by AI and refined by human hands, paintings that incorporated augmented reality elements, the intersection of human creativity and technological innovation. It was everything Claire had dreamed of creating, everything Marcus had said was impossible, and it was hers. Grace appeared with champagne. You did it. You actually did it. Your own gallery, your own show, your own life. We did it, Claire corrected. I wouldn't have survived without you. You would have. You're stronger than you know. Grace hugged her. But I'm glad I was here anyway. Dr. Morrison arrived with her husband. I had to see this. The patient who almost died in my ICU is now a gallery owner. It's a remarkable transformation. I had good doctors keeping me alive, Claire said. You had determination. The medicine just kept you alive long enough to use it. Dr. Morrison looked around the gallery with obvious pride. Your daughter is lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have her. Near the end of the night, Jonathan approached carrying Emma on his hip. The baby was wearing a tiny dress and looked ridiculously adorable. She'd become comfortable with Jonathan over the past months. Reached for him, called him Jojo, even though it wasn't his name. Someone wants her mama, Jonathan said. Claire took Emma, held her close, breathed in that baby smell that wouldn't last much longer. Thank you for coming tonight, for everything. I wouldn't have missed it. Jonathan's expression was soft, genuine. This is who you were always meant to be to my mother. I'm just glad you finally have the space to become her. They'd been seeing each other for 2 months, carefully, slowly, building trust like a foundation that wouldn't crack under pressure. He was good with Emma, patient, gentle, everything Marcus hadn't been. But more importantly, he was good to Claire, listened when she talked, respected her boundaries, celebrated her victories without trying to take credit, supported her decisions without trying to control them. He made her feel seen without making her feel small. Later that night, after everyone left, Claire stood in the empty gallery, just stood there, breathing, existing, being. The panic attacks had stopped months ago. The 3 a.m. crying sessions had faded. The constant anxiety about survival had been replaced by quiet confidence about thriving. She wasn't healed, not completely, probably never would be completely, but she was no longer broken. There was a difference, Thursday. At home that night, Claire sat in the nursery rocking chair, Emma asleep in her arms. She thought about that day in the hospital, the text message, the life support, the moment she'd realized her husband had chosen a model over his dying wife and unborn child. She should hate Marcus. Part of her did, part of her always would, but mostly she felt something unexpected. Gratitude, not for what he did, but for what it revealed. His cruelty had freed her from a life that was slowly suffocating her. His abandonment had given her permission to become who she was always meant to be. He thought he was destroying her. Instead, he'd accidentally saved her. 3 weeks later, Marcus appeared at the gallery. Claire was cataloging new pieces when the door chimed. She looked up. Marcus stood in the doorway. He looked worse than at the final hearing. Thinner, older, defeated in a way that seemed permanent. "I'm not here to cause problems," he said immediately. His voice was small, nothing like the confident attorney. "I wanted to see my daughter, and to talk to you, if you'll let me." Claire considered. She could call security, could have him escorted out, could refuse to engage. But curiosity won. "You have 5 minutes," she said. They stood near the window, not too close, maintaining distance. "I've missed every supervised visitation," Marcus said. "All 23 of them. I was too ashamed. Still am." Claire didn't respond. Let him talk. "I made terrible choices, unforgivable choices. I destroyed the best thing that ever happened to me." He stared at the floor. "Sienna called me last week. Told me what she gave you, all the evidence. I was going to be angry. But honestly, I deserved it. Deserved everything that happened. If you're looking for forgiveness, you won't find it here," Claire said. "I'm not. I don't deserve forgiveness." Marcus pulled an envelope from his pocket. "This is a certified check, first year of child support paid in full, 12 months up front, and a letter to Emma for when she's old enough to understand, explaining that her father was broken and cruel, but that she was loved, even if I showed it in the worst possible way." Claire took the envelope, didn't open it. "You can't undo what you did." "I know, but I can spend the rest of my life trying to be someone my daughter doesn't have to be ashamed of." He turned to leave, stopped. "Jonathan is good for you, better than I ever was. Emma is lucky to have him. You're lucky to have him." "I know." Marcus nodded, walked out of the gallery, out of her life as quietly as he'd destroyed it. Claire opened the letter that night after Emma was asleep. It was honest, raw, a confession of narcissism and systematic cruelty, an acknowledgement that Emma and Claire had deserved better, that he'd failed catastrophically. The letter ended. "I don't ask for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I ask that you tell Emma, when she's old enough, that her father loved her in the only broken way he knew how, and that his failures were his own, not hers. She is perfect. You are extraordinary. I was the problem." Claire put the letter in a locked box in her closet. For Emma, someday. When she asked about her father. One Sunday morning a year after the hospital, Claire woke up to Emma's babbling from the nursery. Jonathan had stayed over for the first time the night before, on the couch because they were taking things slow, building something real instead of rushing into something that would break under pressure. She made coffee, listened to Emma's happy sounds, watched the city wake up through the window. Jonathan appeared in the kitchen doorway, sleep rumpled, perfect. "Good morning." "Good morning." Emma toddled into the kitchen, 13 months old now, walking, talking, full of opinions about everything. "Mama," Emma said clearly, then saw Jonathan. "Jojo." Claire picked up her daughter, held her close, looked at Jonathan, looked at her life. This wasn't the fairy tale ending. There was no dramatic music, no perfect resolution, no guarantee that everything would work out exactly right. Just 3 people building a family from the wreckage of the old one, taking it slow, being careful, trying to get it right this time. And somehow that was better than any fairy tale. Claire Westfield started this story dying in a hospital. She was ending it fully alive. Not because of revenge, not because Marcus got what he deserved, though he had. Not even because she'd found love again, though that was happening slowly and carefully, but because she'd found herself, the woman she was before she'd learned to shrink, before she'd learned to apologize for existing, before she'd learned that love meant making yourself smaller so someone else could feel bigger. Emma's second birthday party happened on a sunny Saturday in May. The gallery was closed for the day. The space transformed into a wonderland of balloons and streamers and a cake shaped like a paintbrush because Emma loved watching her mother work. The guest list was small. Grace, Dr. Morrison and her husband, Rebecca, Nurse Lydia, Jonathan and his father Thomas, a few other friends Claire had made over the past 2 years, people who'd shown up, who'd stayed, who'd proven themselves worthy of her trust. No one from Marcus's family was invited, not even for Emma's sake, because Emma deserved people who showed up consistently, not people who only appeared when it was convenient. Marcus had completed his psychological evaluation, had been granted limited supervised visitation. He came once a month, spent 2 hours at a visitation center with Emma and a court-appointed supervisor, brought age-appropriate gifts, played gently, left quietly. He was trying, in his broken way. It wasn't enough, would never be enough, but it was something. Emma didn't call him daddy, didn't seem to understand who he was beyond the man who brings toys sometimes. She called Jonathan Jojo and reached for him when she was scared or tired or excited. Biology wasn't always destiny. Make a wish, baby girl, Claire said as they gathered around the cake, 2 candles flickering. Emma clapped her hands. Wish, wish, everyone sang. Emma blew out the candles with help from Claire. Cake was distributed, presents were opened, normal birthday party things. But there was nothing normal about this moment for Claire. 2 years ago, she'd been dying in a hospital. Her husband had abandoned her. Her future had been a black hole of uncertainty and fear. Now she stood in her own gallery, surrounded by people who loved her, watching her daughter celebrate another year of life. The transformation was complete. After the party, after everyone left and Emma was asleep, Claire and Jonathan sat on the gallery floor surrounded by wrapping paper and deflated balloons. 2 years, Claire said quietly. 2 years, Jonathan agreed. You've come a long way. We've come a long way. Claire leaned against his shoulder. I couldn't have done this without you. You could have. You're stronger than you know. His arm came around her shoulders, gentle, respectful, always asking permission without words. But I'm glad I got to be here anyway. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. No need to fill every moment with words. Companionship was enough. Emma asked me something yesterday, Claire finally said. She asked if you were her daddy. Jonathan went still. What did you tell her? I told her that her daddy was someone else, but that you were Jojo, and Jojo was special. Jojo was family. Claire looked up at him. Was that okay? That was perfect. His voice was rough with emotion. I love her, Claire. I love you both. But I never want to try to replace Marcus. I just want to be here. Whatever that looks like. What if it looks like forever? The words came out before Claire could stop them. Vulnerable, terrifying, real. Jonathan cupped her face in his hands. Then I'm the luckiest man alive. He kissed her. Soft, sweet, full of promise instead of possession. And Claire kissed him back, finally ready, finally trusting, finally able to believe that love didn't have to hurt. 6 months later, Claire sat in the same rocking chair where she'd nursed Emma as a newborn, writing in her journal, the one Dr. Morrison had given her 2.5 years ago. Dear Emma, she wrote, someday you'll be old enough to ask questions about your father, about why he's not around more, about what happened. When that day comes, I'll tell you the truth. Your father was broken in ways he couldn't fix. He made terrible choices. He hurt people. He hurt us. But I'll also tell you this. His brokenness was never your fault. You were wanted. You were loved. You were the best thing I've ever done. And I'll tell you about Jojo, about how he showed up when we needed someone, about how he chose us every single day, about how family isn't always about biology. Most importantly, I'll tell you about the woman your father's cruelty forced me to become. Stronger, clearer, more certain of my worth. I'll teach you to never make yourself smaller for anyone, to never apologize for taking up space, to never accept love that requires you to dim your light. The man who left me for a model gave me the greatest gift, though he'll never understand it. He gave me back to myself, and in doing so, he gave me to you. We built this life from wreckage, you and I, and it's more beautiful than anything I could have imagined. You'll never doubt that you're wanted. You'll never question your worth. You'll never learn the lessons I had to unlearn. You'll grow up watching your mother take up space, claim her worth, build her dreams, refuse to shrink, and you'll know in your bones, in your blood, in your future, that no one gets to make you smaller. Not even the people who claim to love you. That's my promise to you. Love, Mom. Claire closed the journal, checked on Emma, asleep in her big girl bed now, not the crib, growing, changing, becoming. Jonathan was in the kitchen making tea. They lived together now, in the townhouse that had become home, building a life one careful day at a time. "Everything okay?" he asked when she appeared in the doorway. "Everything's perfect," Claire said. And for the first time in her entire life, she meant it. Not perfect in the fairy tale sense. There were still hard days, moments of grief for the life she'd thought she'd have, flashes of anger at what Marcus had done, but perfect in the real sense, in the sense that she was exactly where she was supposed to be, doing exactly what she was meant to do, with exactly the people she was meant to love. The woman in the hospital bed 3 years ago wouldn't recognize her now, wouldn't recognize her strength or confidence or certainty. That woman had been dying, not just physically, in every way that mattered. This woman was alive, fully, completely, unapologetically alive. Marcus had tried to destroy her. Instead, he'd freed her, given her permission to stop performing, stop shrinking, stop pretending. The final revenge, if it could be called that, was that she'd moved on. Not to punish him, but because staying in the past would have been punishment for herself. And Claire Westfield was done punishing herself for other people's failures. She was living now, really living. And there was no revenge sweeter than that. And that's Claire's story. From a hospital bed where she almost lost everything, to a life more authentic than anything she'd imagined. If this story moved you, if you've ever felt underestimated or left behind, if you believe in second chances and the strength it takes to rebuild yourself from nothing, do me a favor, hit that like button. Let me know this story resonated with you. Drop a comment telling me which moment hit you hardest. Was it the text message, the journal entries, the life insurance policy? Or maybe it was Sienna showing up at Claire's door with evidence. I read every single comment and I want to hear your thoughts. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. We all know someone who's been through their own version of Claire's nightmare. Someone who needs to be reminded that the end of something toxic is actually the beginning of something real. And if you want more stories like this, stories about real people facing impossible situations and coming out stronger, subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. Because Claire's story isn't unique. It's happening every day to women who deserve to know they're not alone. Remember what Claire learned. You are not responsible for other people's cruelty. You are only responsible for your own comeback. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. And remember, the best revenge is becoming someone they couldn't destroy. I'll see you in the next story.